This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Hello, everybody. I am Lizzie Polly Robinson Brown Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast. Today, we are talking with Dr. Darren Kelley. Welcome, Dr. Kelley, to my podcast.
Hello.
Hello and
doing?
welcome. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Great.
Especially after a wonderful weekend at the downtown.
Yes, downtown Asala conference. It was
Yes.
awesome. And that gave us an opportunity to recap, catch up on Rosewood from the first time we met. What year did we meet?
That was about 2013.
2013, and you tracked me down. You Googled Rosewood. Would you like to tell us how it happened and why it happened? How did we meet?
We met because I moved to Gainesville from Virginia, Reston, Virginia. And I was sitting in the room, minding my business, looking out the window, working on the computer. And I heard a voice, and the voice said, it was a whisper, and it said Rosewood. I literally turned behind my back to see if somebody was in the room with me. And that happened 3 times. It said Rosewood. It happened 3 times. So then I knew I heard of Rosewood, but I really didn't know where it was. I thought it was somewhere. I didn't know where it was. I didn't know how close it was. So I typed on the computer, and then it said it was on State Road 24. And then it showed that State Road 24 turned into Archer, and I knew that my hotel was on Archer. Then it said it was 59 miles away, and I said, "Oh my God!" And so I was overwhelmed by this because I heard about Rosewood, and I said, I knew about it, but I had no idea that this is somewhere I could go and visit, and I didn't realize it was just straight down the street, just an hour away. So I talked to one of my coworkers, and she reached out to her husband, and she said, "Hey, is it all right if I drive with him and so he can get around?" And he was fine with it. So her and I chose a Saturday, and then we drove out to Rosewood, and it was eerie for me because there was nothing out there. Because Rosewood, people are not hanging outside. You don't see people just walking around unless you go on their property. You don't see anyone except for the cars going up and down the street. And I remember that we made a right off 24 onto 345. And at that time, I didn't realize it, but I was on the Hayward and the Carter and Hall properties, former properties.
And the carriers.
Right. I didn't know it then. Yeah, I didn't know it then, but that's where I was looking at it now. So on our way back, we made some stops. We looked around. We did things like that. And I wasn't comfortable because I knew the history. I wasn't comfortable. And I just didn't know what to expect. So the day was over. I saw the landmark that you had put up, and I saw the White House. And I knew what that White House was, but I really didn't know the history of it and everything behind it. So my experience with Rosewood was very limited. It was very
Okay.
limited. So when I got back to Gainesville, I said, I need to know more about Rosewood. So I got online and I started saying Rosewood, Rosewood, and I saw Rosewood tours. Then it said Lizzie Jenkins. And I don't know if it was Lizzie Robinson or Lizzie, but it had your name on it. And it
Yeah,
said
that's good
tours.
enough. Uh-huh.
And your number was on there. And so I said, well, let me call this number. So I called the number, you answered, you were very suspicious
Okay.
because my phone call came out of nowhere. It was just out of
Yes.
nowhere. And I was asking about Rosewood, and now I know why you now I know why you were so apprehensive, And so I said, I want to know more about Rosewood. You was like, well, who are you? Who sent you? Where you come from? What do you want? So I just want to go on the tour. I just I just want to go on the tour. So it took us some time, and then you relaxed while you calmed down and you were convinced that I wasn't the boogeyman, I wasn't an agent.
Yes.
Once you were relaxed,
Hmm.
then we just set up a time to meet.
Right.
And that I do not remember where we first met. It may have been I don't know, it may have been at a restaurant. I don't know.
I think we met at the traffic light in Archer on 24 on our way to Rosewood. And I don't remember if we stopped because at that traffic light there is a restaurant. I don't know if we stopped there, had breakfast or lunch or what. But I know we left one of the cars there. I trusted you enough by then to ride with you or you ride with me. And I think we journeyed to Rosewood together. And the rest is history.
The rest was
Yes,
history.
the rest is history because, oh, you made my day. I did trust you, and there are so many people called that are not real that I don't trust. And that's why I was apprehensive about talking to you. They're looking for information, and sometimes when they get your information, they will want to write their own history and embellish what I have said or what I have done. And there are
Right.
some people out there that will do this. And so you are not one of those type of people. And over the years, we have worked together, worked apart, and you have basically done your own thing. I think about a year and a half ago, you disappeared.
Right. Disappeared.
And yes,
So you know, I remember you made me chairman of the board,
yes,
and I saw I wanted to head in a different direction, but I wanted to stay true to what I said I would do for you.
mm-hmm, yes,
So so what I did was I took that time. 'Cause being chair was a lot of work. It was a lot of work,
yes,
and there's no way in the world I could be chair and finish anything different because it was too much to do.
mm-hmm,
It was too much. So I took that time to work on the Rosewood diorama.
tell us
And
about the Rosewood diorama.
okay, you and I went to a Archer festival. We were at an Archer festival, and you were packing your car. And I said to you, I'm going to make you a diorama. I didn't call
Yes,
it a diorama. I said, I'm going to make you a replica of Rosewood. You said,
yes,
okay. And I said, I'm going to make you a replica of Rosewood. I'm going to make it to where we can put one in the car and you can transport it and carry it with you. And we're going to make one where we just leave it somewhere. You said,
mm-hmm,
okay, okay. And you were really excited. You were really excited. And I
I did.
started on I started on it months later. And then we were talking when I was in Jacksonville. And then I called you and I showed you one of the first houses, but the houses were paper. They were
Mm-hmm,
paper houses. And you were like, wow, you really like the first houses. They were paper.
yes,
I liked them. However, I wasn't ready to start the actual work. I did the houses, but laying out the board, the terrain, the grass, the trees, the swamps, the bushes, that was another ball game. And I had to move. So it took me another year, almost another year to actually get started. Even though I had
Mm.
started, I showed you the first set of houses. I needed more time because I couldn't do a diorama where I was living, not with the
Okay.
roommate. I had a roommate. So I had to move. Then once I moved, had my own space, then I started a couple of months afterward. And that took me 16 months.
Wow.
That took 16
Wow.
months. So it's been a journey.
And it looks like it has been a journey. And I can't wait for you to display it in Archer. It is awesome. I've never seen anything like it before. And when you told me diorama, I didn't have any idea what you were talking about, although I was excited to see the first paper house. But that looked good enough
Right.
for me. But it didn't meet your standards of what you wanted. And you told me later or this weekend that you wanted it to be solid, stable, enough so that you can move it
Right.
around, take it with you.
So so now that it's done, we're dealing with transportation, getting it from Jacksonville and transporting it to Archer, which is still historic. Because if you get online and you type diorama Rosewood, it doesn't exist. If you type diorama Edmonds Pettus Bridge, it doesn't exist. If you type diorama Memphis Massacre, it doesn't exist. If you type diorama Elaine 11, it doesn't exist. We do not have any dioramas or models of the towns that were destroyed by whites at all in this country. Therefore, you are now in possession of the first diorama for any black massacre that occurred in the United States. And you have the first one for Rosewood.
Wow,
That's
excitement.
significant. That's
And
significant.
it is significant, it's different, and we are not going to share it, y'all. So don't expect to see it on
Yeah.
Facebook or on my website. It will not be there. Not yet. Not now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We got to get it patent and no, you will not see it. So what you can do is imagine. That's what I did for a long time. I just figured it, not figured it out. I just imagined what it would look like. Now, if you want to see a diorama, you can type in diorama, but it will not look like what Kelley, Darren has done. And Darren, we thank you so very much for the work and time that you have put into this. Wonderful. And also, if we talk about after we met, we have gone several places. We have been to Hilliard, Florida, and
Yes.
visited.
I was very
Mhm.
fortunate. You took me to Briceville. We went through
Yes,
Hilliard. We went to Briceville. I believe we went to Hilliard to meet Mary Mary Hall and her family. I believe she
yes,
was in Hilliard.
yes.
And then you
And
took me to Briceville, where the conductors that operated the trains to get the Rosewood citizens out of Rosewood.
yes,
Right. You took me
yes,
there. I met their family.
yes, yes.
Yes.
And we have done a lot. And you videoed Mary Hall. And by the way, you all, Mary Hall was one of the last Rosewood survivors. And uh, Darren had the opportunity to talk to her, to touch her, to make her some juice. Remember, you took her some juice? I don't remember what type
It's my
of juice.
famous strawberry lemonade.
Yeah, you took her some, and she sat there and she drank some with us. So
And
Mary
my chicken
Hall,
wings. And my
and
chicken
your
wings.
chicken wings. Yes, yes, yes. So we have done quite a few things together, and I'm so glad that you're back and you are ready to work and you're doing a lot of other things that we have not talked about. But
Right.
you really made my day. You refreshed my energy. I have been refreshed, and I really needed it. Okay, so that's about time for our first half. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History.
I am Florida and America's Black History.
And you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you weekly from the Steve Spurrier Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are here with Dr. Darren Kelley. The Queen Lizzie Podcast is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Special thanks to Greg Bradley, Allstate. Welcome back, Darren, and we will complete our conversation. We had just started to talk about Rosewood survivor Mary Hall Daniels. Okay, and Mary Hall, as we said, lives in Hilliard. She was a recipient of the Rosewood reparation for $150,000. And she invested her money. I don't know if this is personal or not, but she invested her money in a nice home. And that home today is still in Hilliard, and family members live in it. I'm thinking she donated it to her grandson, gave it to her grandson. So Mary Hall was, as my mom would say, something else. She was very sharp, a member of the Heroines of Jericho. And she followed that organization. And you know what? My uncle was also a member of the Masonic, which was the same Masonic as she. And one day, they rode to Jacksonville together. Not to Jacksonville. They rode from Jacksonville to a meeting place. And they were in the same car. And they started talking about, somehow Rosewood came up. And she told Mary, she said, my sister, my mother was the school teacher in Rosewood. And she lived in Rosewood because Mary was a young girl. She never remembered her. But Minnie Lee Langley Mitchell was in that same car. She, too, was a friend of Mary Hall, but they didn't know at that time how they connected. So Uncle Richard said, yes, my sister was the teacher, and I lived in Jacksonville with her after the massacre. And Minnie Lee said, I live with, what did you all call her? I live with a teacher by the name of Gussie. What did you call her? He said, Uncle Richard said, Gussie was her middle name, Mahalda Gussie Brown Carrier. She said, well, that's who raised me after my grandmother died. Uncle Richard said, well, I was in that house too. The reason they didn't connect, because not only did they raise Uncle Richard and Mary and Minnie Lee, there were about 5 other children in that house. And they were able to connect and remember each other. Uncle Richard said, were you hit by a car when you were a little girl? She said, yes, I was struck by a car. And that's how they connected, and they never forgot each other. And just this weekend, I was in Jacksonville. I know those kids lived with my aunt, the school teacher, and Aaron, because Aaron was their blood uncle. So I met the superintendent. I had called the school board on Friday when I got there. No luck. I met the superintendent, the former superintendent, at the book readout downtown at the A. Philip Randolph Park. They introduced the former superintendent, who was black, Dr. Green, and I said, okay, I'm going to talk to her afterwards. Sure enough, when it was over, I said, ma'am, are you the young lady they just shared with us and said that you were the superintendent? She said, yes. And I told her the situation, the story that I just told you about the children. And I told her I wanted to get in touch with the school board. And I said, I've called already, but, they were not interested. She said, well, you call back on Monday. You ask for Lisa, and Lisa will get you those records. So everything happens for a reason. I was supposed to be in Jacksonville. I was supposed to meet Dr. Green, and the rest is history. And when I get those names and those records, it will be part of my book. Now I have talked enough about Mary, so you can tell or you can share some more information about you recording her and interviewing her.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, yeah. So I remember when we got to her home, she was very kind to us. We sat in her living room. Her family, stayed out the way so we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
And she just went in and she tried to recall everything that she could because she was 3 years old at the time
Yes.
of the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And so she, remembered what she could remember. I do recall her telling us that she graduated from Lincoln High School in Gainesville, if I have that right.
Yes.
High school,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
She talked about her church that she attended, and she was 90 when we went. She was 91 or 92,
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
she talked very clear.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I worked at Home Depot in Atlanta. When I left Jacksonville, I called her one time, and it was a couple years later, and there was a championship game on television, and we were talking about Michael Jordan. We were talking about basketball. We were talking about the championship. And we were talking sports,
Mm-hmm.
just as clear as day. Unfortunately,
Yes.
I didn't get back to Jacksonville fast enough because she passed some time afterwards.
Right.
While I was still in Atlanta. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
wish I
can.
had got back. I wish I had got back sooner.
Right. But the most important thing, you did get an opportunity to meet her and to
Yeah,
experience, yes. And she was sharp. She was
sharp.
very, very sharp. She was, and just a nice person. And I think she wanted to bake you a cake, but we never did get back to get that cake she wanted to bake for you. She was
Right, we
still
didn't get to the
baking.
cake. Hmm?
Right. I said she was still cooking for herself
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
living alone and in her 90s, very helpful with the information. And her mother was deceased at the time, but when the Rosewood massacre happened in Rosewood, I think it was about 8 children in the family, and her father died. Her father ran a store, I'm thinking. I hope I'm right. And he had passed early as a farmer and a store merchant. Wasn't a big store like John Wright, but he ran his little own store and supplied people that lived close to them with food that they didn't have to walk or travel to the John Wright store. to get. She loved her family. I think her mother left
Hmm.
Hilliard and moved in with her son, who was serving in the army, and his name was Charles Hall Jr. So being involved with this Rosewood history has really helped me better understand, and I have learned from Rosewood more, and I carry that story with me. And I always let people know, because if they didn't listen before, and if they are listening now, I want you all to know that my aunt was a Rosewood school teacher from 1915 to 1923. She was a survivor. I am telling her story as she told it to my mother, and my mother told it to me. The most important thing my mom said to me, this is Black history. It's our history. You must research Rosewood history to tell the truth, authenticate it, because everybody has a different story when they don't research. They will document, and they will document lies. They will embellish it. But I want you to research it, document it, and keep it straight for the people that you talk to and you pass it on to. And I know this weekend I met so many people. We met so many people at the Asala event. Oh my God. I have so many business cards. So many historians were there doing work, and it was the 108th event, Asala convention, conference, whatever you want to call it. Next year it will be in Pittsburgh. And I told you last night, I think, or yesterday, that we are going to get our team together, and we are going to talk about, go there, present a panel, and we're going to talk about Rosewood. We got a story to tell. And Hazel Gillis, who is the scholarship chair for the Real Rosewood, and her husband, and we're going to go there, and we're going to participate. What we need to do is write a proposal, and I know we can do that. But Rosewood has been a challenge. We must keep the history alive. It's Black history. It's who we are. And without history, we are nothing. And before we go, I just want to share with you all that we have a website, rosewoodflorida.com, www.rosewoodflorida.com. You can go there, make a donation, because we are in the process of moving the house that was donated to us from Rosewood to Archer. So we are accepting donations. Or you can also, and I forgot what else I was about to say at that website, follow us on Rosewood, okay? And if you have any ideas, you can leave comments. You can become a member and encourage your friends to become a member. Anything else you would like to add to my comments, Darren?
I'm good. I'm good. It's basically listening to you go into more history.
Yes, yes. And I have been doing this more than 30 years, you all. So my work is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. The only one of the things are that I cannot answer, one of the questions I cannot answer, how many people lived in Rosewood? I don't know. But my estimate of how many were killed, I always say 5, because I'm only able to track 5 that were killed in the during the violence, during the massacre. When the KKK invaded our town and burned it down and killed our people. And when I say invaded, they were not invited. They came in as insurrectionists, okay? And they did the exact same thing that happened in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol on January 6th, the same type of behavior, which was not pleasant for our kids to see. And now they are worrying about what our kids are going to think if we talk about slavery. If your kids saw what happened January 6th, that's what they need to think about. They did the same type activities January 6th that they did in Rosewood, that they performed in Rosewood when they were killing our people on January 1, 1923. Okay? All right.
Good question.
Yes.
You said that you counted 5. Does that include James Carrier? Your
Yes.
5?
Yes. Yes, James Carrier is included. James Carrier, Sarah Carrier, Sam Carter, 2 more, Lexi Gordon, and one more. Can't remember his name right now, but yes, it does.
And
Okay?
you're still going to look into whether the Carrier house, Sarah Carrier's house was a 2-level home or 1 level?
Yes, I am. That's on my to-do list. I will find out because when I was doing my research, all of the information that was really filed away, when they realized that I was coming in and I was asking questions, they really moved that information. It was no longer accessible to me. But before they discovered what I was doing, I did have the opportunity to do some searching. Yes, but I will let you know. I'll talk about that at another time. Okay, on
Awesome.
another show when I find the information. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay. Let me start over. I am continuously humbled, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of Rosewood. That will wrap up today's episode. I am Queen Lizzie. Until next time. Bye. This is my story, and I'm sticking to it.